Hello, Sumo fans. We are back for our second week live stream. Sorry that we are doing it so late, but I've been out of town and there's been so many different ups and downs of this tournament, so I feel like we're finally at a place where there's plenty to talk about. So, first, let's talk about something that happened very early on in the tournament. Very, very disappointing. Takakeisho's Yokozuna dream came to a crashing halt just day 3, day 4. It was pretty obvious that, in day 1 that he was super, super nervous, and that wasn't boding well. And then, he looked pretty shaky, and then before you know it, knees hurt, meniscus tear, I think was the official word. And unfortunately, this is the pattern for Takakeisho. There's absolutely nothing surprising about what happened. What would have been more surprising is if he could have pulled it off, which is really, really unfortunate. As a Takakeisho fan, as a fan of Sumo who really wants to see the next Yokozuna, it was something that I worried would happen, and it happened exactly the way it always does. The last 2 other times that he went for Yokozuna, he also got injured and was out of the tournament. And, you can say it's because he's not Yokozuna material, which, it's a fair assessment. But I would also say consider the fact that he's been the top guy for many, many tournaments now with nobody else to step up. So he's got to train harder. He's got to push himself harder. He's got more pressure on him. There's nobody even close to even making Ozeki, let alone someone going on a Yokozuna run. And we all know Takakeisho is injury prone. So unfortunately, we will not have a new Yokozuna anytime soon. And that's particularly bad with the fact that Terunofuji wasn't able to come back. I mean, that might have been how it was always going to be. But there's lots of rumblings in the background that Terunofuji may never be the same again. That the surgery was, a last-ditch attempt to save his career, but he might just do what Kisano Sato did, come in, lose a couple, and retire. So that puts us with no Yokozuna prospects, potentially no Ozeki if Takakeisho, can't get himself back together. Because unfortunately, Takakeisho now is dealing with yet another injury. He's going to be Kadoban next tournament. The horrible roller coaster of injury Kadoban that we've seen the last 5 or 6 years now with pretty much every Ozeki. If he can't overcome it this time, then we're really in danger up at the top. So, I feel a great loss in my heart about the top of the Banzuke. I really don't think Takakeisho is going to be able to do another Yokozuna run. And even if he were to, he gets older and older each year. So unfortunately, I think he's run out of time. This was his best shot. This was his best opportunity to make a Yokozuna run. And it's probably for the best that it ended the way that it did. Because if he had pushed himself the whole way and either lost out or gets injured at the end, gets promoted to Yokozuna, and then he's just another injured Yokozuna, that doesn't work. If he can't do it, he can't do it, and we might just have to wait for the younger guys to come up, and maybe they'll be a little bit more durable. But unfortunately, I do think it will be some time before we really see a shift in sumo, because I do believe that the lack of training, the lack of consistent everyday training for the last 3 years hurt this entire generation of sumo wrestlers. Just like it's, the disruption to children hurt their educational opportunities. I almost think this, depending on where you are in the age group, this generation of sumo wrestlers, this may just be the best they can do, and you have to wait for the next set who are not impacted, that are training more consistently. And this benefits Hakuho greatly because he's just getting a lot of young guys in who probably didn't go through that too much. And so, he might end up getting all the great prospects, and he might bring in the next generation of Ozeki and Yokozuna. So we shall see. But it was a disappointment. Very difficult as a Takakeisho fan. Like, I felt my heart go into my feet. I know how much he wanted it, and everyone was talking about him, and he was on all the banners, and they were finally starting to give him a little bit of a push, and then he just gets injured right away, and it just explains why people haven't had faith in him, and that's hard. The Playfarer says, and I'm going to 100% agree with this, it's what popped into my head recently, I feel so bad for Takakeisho. It must hurt not being able to make Yokozuna in a similar way to Takayasu not being able to get a Yusho. Feels bad, man. It is exactly like that. Especially now as we're watching Takayasu sort of slip right out of the playoff race again. I thought, wow, Takakeisho and Takayasu really are in the same situation. Every single time Takakeisho gets close, he gets hurt again. He was not gifted with a body for sumo, and he's used his strong will and his strong desire to get him through. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and we all root for it, and that's why I love him so much. But then reality comes in and slaps you in the face. And unfortunately with reality, he just doesn't have the physical capability to be Yokozuna. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get into this a little bit more down the line, particularly with Hokuseiho, but there's just a problem in general right now. And like I said, perhaps it's the training, but a lot of guys are getting hurt, and nobody's carrying the load up top. And that's going to be a problem for a while. I mean, why did we have all these great wrestlers up until Hakuho's point, and now nobody can get Ozeki, nobody can get Yokozuna? There's a systematic issue there somewhere that will have to change, and like I said, I think it's in the next generation. Unfortunately, I do not see Takakeisho ever becoming Yokozuna, and that's not for lack of heart, that's not for lack of effort. The man has been carrying the top for a very long time and getting nothing but crap about it. Oh, he stinks. He's one-dimensional. He's lucky he's Ozeki. You should see the comments. They're very ridiculous. The man has been Ozeki a long time with no other Ozekis, with no Yokozunas, and being a guy who's just not as physically gifted. So he's done everything he can do, and hopefully he holds his head up high because he's done everything that's been asked of him. He just isn't able to reach that top. Only 73 men before him have ever done it. So what can you do? And Takayasu, oh man, I really, really hope that he wins a Yusho someday. I mean, it's been so tumultuous. If he can't get one, in the next couple of years, that's a heartbreaker right there. But now, after I lament Takakeisho, it's time to talk about what's actually going on in this tournament. Midorifuji, 10-1. Coming into today, he was undefeated, and he was going up against Wakamotoharu, and I just had a feeling that Wakamotoharu was going to win this match. That man has a lot to prove. He's very fiery, and Midorifuji, I mean, this is pretty impressive what he's doing, but at the same time, it does kind of feel like, okay, when is the luck going to run out, or when is he going to make a mistake? Because he is a small guy. So, he's got a lot more, he's got to be a lot more perfect in his sumo than a bigger guy who can kind of screw up and then just crush somebody. And effectively, that's what happened is Wakamotoharu crushed him today. You know, that lightweightness of Midorifuji just, it did not work today. He tried his katatsukashi's, just didn't have that extra weight, that extra muscle to pull it off. So, unfortunately, he could not pull an ura today. So, unfortunately, Midorifuji loses 1. He's still in the lead because he put up a nice, you know, he was 10-0, and Daieisho at the time was 8-2. So he's got still 1 more on Daieisho. But Midorifuji is much greener than Daieisho. And so today we have Daieisho 9-2. And the Takayasu Daieisho match was the match of the day, perhaps the match of the tournament. Daieisho usually, you know, he's got a little bit of the Takakeisho in terms of his matches are over very quick, but not for stamina's sake. It's just that Daieisho just puts it all on the line, and he tends to like bulldoze out of the ring or get tripped on the edge. He was really hanging in against Takayasu. Both of those guys really, really wanted to win because this was to stay in the playoff race. And, you know, Daieisho's the closest one, and Takayasu wants to stay in. And that was one heck of a match. And considering that Daieisho won the Fuji TV tournament, I don't know. I've got a strong feeling that Midorifuji is not going to hold on and that Daieisho is actually going to win this whole thing. There are a few people who could upset this, but I've got some strong Daieisho vibes going on right now. The Playfarer says, as much as I love all the Sekiwake, I can't really see any of them being Ozeki level right now. It makes me feel anxious for top tier sumo right now, but I'm sure the sport has been through worse. Yes and no. I 100% agree with you that no one is ready to be Ozeki, which makes this whole Takakeisho injury thing a big problem because he's the only Ozeki. We don't know if we have a Yokozuna. And now Takakeisho's got to come back Kadoban. This is the part where the Kadoban system is going to hurt you. If you were in a famine like sumo is right now and you have one guy and he has to come back injured or loses Ozeki rank, he comes back in and his knee isn't good, he's out. Not only does he, lose his Ozeki spot, but now there's nobody. It's just a shame that there isn't a way in sumo for you to take time off. And as far as if the sport has been through worse, I'll say this. They had the gambling scandal. That was probably, I was not watching sumo at the time, but that was probably pretty bad for everybody. I'm sure that the whole sport was in an uproar and people were turning on sumo and giving up on it, and all the wrestlers were wondering if they were going to be the next guy to be axed and lose their career. So sure, they've been through worse, but I don't know how they're breaking a lot of records in terms of like the first time in 50 years that there wasn't an Ozeki or a Yokozuna at the top. It might even be longer than 50 years. So I don't know that the sport's been through something like this. Because what we're seeing in the modern era in particular, and you'll see this in industries everywhere. Everywhere you will hear the same story. People are not dedicating to careers, and they're not staying in careers, and they're not signing up for really hard physical commitments. Everybody's just kind of floating around. Sumo has a lot against it in terms of between the scandals and the bullying that goes on for young recruits and the fact that there are other ways for you to make careers that there might not have been in the past. Sumo is not nearly as enticing to young people and their parents as it was 50, 60 years ago. So you're getting a lot less recruits. I think it was right before COVID that they had an entire session where no new recruits signed up. So we are running into a situation where there's not going to be as many people to be in sumo. And what happens in all careers when you have a handful of people doing the work day after day after day? They burn out. So in general, we just need to see more people flooding the space. And I don't know if it'll happen or not. I guess we'll have to see. Something's going to have to make sumo very, very appealing to people. And maybe that's Hakuho. Maybe he's going to be a big part of that. I don't know. We're entering into some pretty strange territory in terms of, how many people really want to be sumo wrestlers. So, getting back to the playoff race. But first, I'll say hi, Daniel. Hi, Quackadoo. Glad to see you here. Hello, Stargazer, even though I typed hello to you. So we have a situation now where Midorifuji 10-1, Daieisho 9-2, 8-3. We have Hoshoryu, Kiribayama, Wakamotoharu, Chiyoshoma, and Endo. This is a very interesting list. Hoshoryu and Kiribayama have been two of the guys who have been in the conversation to make Ozeki runs. They have been in the conversation to win titles, and they haven't done it yet. Wakamotoharu, I probably would not have placed in the, I wouldn't have placed him in this list. I would have been Wakatakage, but he is not in a good place right now. Endo has always been capable of being in the race. And just, for whatever reason, he doesn't show up enough in this group. And Chiyoshoma, well, I expect him not to stay up this high. But we'll have to see. You never know. But I suspect he's going to start losing soon. So, I had said just a little earlier that I really think Daieisho is going to win this tournament. I don't think Midorifuji is going to hold on to that 10-1. I think he's going to wind up 11-4. I just don't see it happening. But I think there's a strong case for Hoshoryu or Kiribayama to come out of nowhere and just take the whole thing. Hoshoryu is really, really fired up. So I got Hoshoryu as sort of the backup here as the potential winner. Wakamotoharu, he's a quiet one. I would not count him out. Oh, I forgot to say Kotonowaka. He's also in the running. I don't know about Kotonowaka. I mean, I definitely have him down as one of the future guys, and maybe this is the tournament, but he always ends up disappointing me. And we're going to have to keep an eye on him. Let's see. Back to our previous conversation. There's also the fact that guys don't get paid until they're Sekitори, and there's a lot that makes sumo unattractive. Yeah, we're living in a modern world, and sumo is still very traditional. Now, there's pros and cons to this. I'm not somebody who just says all tradition is bad. But I'm also someone who doesn't say all progression is good and get rid of tradition. There's got to be some sort of middle ground here. And one of the things that people really like about sumo is its tradition, including its traditional training practices that make you the type of fighter that you won't find anywhere else in the world. Because it's very strict, it's very repetitive, it's a formula for success. However, in the modern world, we do not see the world the way we used to. There's not as strong of a desire to work and work and work with the possibility of getting nothing out of it. There's guys who stay, unsalaried their whole careers. Now, many of the guys who are there right now who've been there for a while are older. They're part of the older world where, that was okay. You have the camaraderie, you have the fact that you're always going to be fed and have a place to live, and this is your life. You've chosen to do this over having a family or whatever else. But there's less and less young people that are attracted to this. In addition, there's less and less young Japanese people who are attracted to sumo in general. There's a lot of these like little anecdotal stories where you will ask young Japanese people if they like sumo, and they're like, no, nobody watches sumo. But us foreign fans, we love sumo. So it's kind of interesting how that works. But yeah, it's looking a little scary. It's a little scary. And then Quackity says, Japanese Yokozuna. Oh, how I wanted to be celebrating a Japanese Yokozuna right after this tournament. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. In fact, I have to not think about it. I don't want to be bummed out. Daniel says, I don't dislike Daieisho, but honestly, I would be pretty bummed if he has 2 titles and Takayasu has none. Otherwise, I'd be happy with any of the other guys in the Yusho ways. Takayasu, that's a tough one. I think we all want him to win. It would be nice to have another moment where somebody overcomes and gets something they've never had, and we get the tears and we get to celebrate. And that's what Takayasu represents. Like, couldn't you just picture him giving the speech and crying and having his wife and children there and his mom? It'd be amazing. It'd be absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, I don't think Takayasu's going to do it. Daieisho has a really good shot. But Quackity says Hoshoryu, and Hoshoryu is a really good bet. Takayasu is now 7-4, so likely out. I don't know that he's mathematically out, but he's out. He's not gonna, one of these other guys is gonna take it at this point, unless everybody collapses. Hoshoryu is looking very, very aggressive, and I wanted to talk about something very funny about him. So Hoshoryu, I am now going to dub the king of the Henka. And the reason for this is, we've had lots and lots of talk about Hoshoryu's Henka and how it's like a very fluid motion and it's the Mongolian Henka and some people hate it and this, that, and the other thing. But have we noticed how good he is at thwarting other people's Henkas? Like to the point where he flat out embarrasses them for daring to Henka at him. I'm giving him major points for that. He made Endo look silly today. I mean, I couldn't believe that. And he was so aggressive. Hoshoryu is hungry right now. He might be hungry enough that he's going to take it away from Daieisho. I could be being a jerk to Midorifuji, but I just... He's too small and he's too new at this that I suspect after this loss, there will be more losses. But he could completely surprise me tomorrow. He still is in control of his destiny. But Hoshoryu, man, he is ready. He is ready to knock some guys out here. The other thing I want to talk about is, we were sort of talking about this. Well, actually, I'm going to comment on Daniel's comment first. Technically, Takayasu isn't mathematically out of the race, but yeah, he's pretty much out of the race. Yeah, everybody would have to have a complete collapse for Takayasu to even be in the conversation again. I don't think it's going to happen. The Playfarer says, Midorifuji was one of the first wrestlers I became a fan of, so my heart is cheering for him. But I do think the nerves might get to him. I think they already did today. Yeah, I mean, the difference between winning it always happens at the end of the tournament. Think about what happened to Oho a couple tournaments ago. Everything's fine when you get to your first 8 wins because you're not thinking about the Yusho. Then you get number 9. Okay. Then you get number 10. And now you have to really seriously start thinking about the Yusho, whether you want to or not. And one little slip up, one little breath at the wrong moment, one little inch off the tachi and you lose. And then you lose and you get in your head and you're like, oh, I can't do this tomorrow. It's like what happened to Takakeisho right at the beginning of this tournament. He was so nervous on day one against Tobizaru that he defeated himself. The exact loss that he was afraid of having, he had. And that was just it. Then he's overcompensating and trying to be too powerful and hurts the knee, of course. So I just see, one thing Midorifuji has in his corner is the fact that he's definitely talking to Terunofuji. I don't know if they're physically training at all, but he has a Yokozuna in his stable who's definitely like, they're talking every single day. He's going to fire him up. That's not something that everybody has. So he does have that in his corner, but he's young and he's small. And this is his first time in this situation. So we'll have to see. The last topic I want to get into, we sort of started off with in the beginning, which is the injuries. Now, the Stormy Basho, we haven't had this in a while, but we're starting to see the injuries. And it's going to affect the next couple of tournaments. So we had Takakeisho out with a meniscus. We have Onosho out with a meniscus tear. Onosho was looking pretty aggressive and pretty strong. Now he's out. Hokuseiho started off very, very strong, and now he's looking a little listless to me. And you see that big taping on his knee. I'm very concerned that he's injured. Now, he's young, so he can recover from it. But unfortunately, I think that injury is... I do fear that injury is affecting his tournament, and I really hope it's nothing too bad. He's got to deal with the fact that, just the speed and the strength of the Tachi is just... It's just too much. It's absolutely too much right now for him. And I hope he learns a lot from this and he doesn't become a Koto Shouho. I see the Koto Shouho comment. Playfair, I agree with you that you should feel bad, but it was me who bet on Koto Shouho. John bet on Shodai, so you can feel bad for him too. I feel like I'm bad luck and I ruined Koto Shouho's entire tournament. But maybe it's just I'm a bad picker. Perhaps that's all it is. Yeah, this is a Stormy Basho for Koto Shouho. I really, really wish that I had said Daieisho. I have said Daieisho in the past. And, now that I've called him for this tournament, it's definitely going to be Hoshoryu who wins now. Hello, Tulio. Good to see you here. So I think Sumo's really going to have to reckon with injuries coming up in the future. There just seems to be a lot of guys getting hurt. And I'm not sure if it's just bad luck or if there's something missing in the training that there didn't used to be, or if there's just so many fewer guys that we have our sights on that it feels like everybody's getting injured. I'm not sure. But injuries are a big part of what's wrecking us up at the top. There were so many potential guys who could have made it big, and then injuries. Look at how many. Got Tomokaze. He could have made it all the way. What happened to Terunofuji? It's like they should have never sent Asanoyama down. It's like, come on, guys. Couldn't you give him a slap on the wrist or figure something else out? Because now you've had him tooling around for years down below, and we really need him up top. What a foolish mistake that was, but I digress. Daniel says, Koto Shouho is too much in his head. He's got the stuff and then throws it away at the end. Oh, yeah. He's a total head case. He's got all the skill, all the moves, got the body, and he puts too much pressure on himself, I think. I seem to recall a Chris Sumo video years ago when he was first coming up to Juryo, where he was like, I'm going to become Yokozuna. And of course, that's a good goal to have, but at the same time, if you really are aiming for that so hard that you can't make a mistake, you wind up being Koto Shouho, unfortunately. I'm really rooting for the kid, but like so many others, it's just not working out. Oh. So for tomorrow, we have, let's go through the matchups. We got big matchups tomorrow. Woo! And Tulio says, like Shodai. Yeah. Shodai is another one of those guys that before he became Ozeki, he was a giant killer. You'd have to worry about him if he was fighting you and you were, if you were in the tournament race or even if you were Yokozuna or Ozeki, you always had to worry that maybe Shodai would take you down. Now I don't know that anybody worries about it because Shodai's reputation is a little shoddy and he doesn't have the intimidation factor anymore. But boy, he looked pretty good in the beginning of this tournament. I almost thought John had really picked a good one this time. But me and John are 0-47. I don't know. We've never picked the winner. So just know that anybody that me or John picks is going to lose. So anyway, we got some big matches tomorrow. We have Kiribayama versus Hoshoryu. This is for the tournament matchup. Whoever loses is out. Whoever wins is staying in, but still has a battle ahead of them. Midorifuji has Wakatakage. Wakatakage looked really good today. Like, he's fighting for his life. He's 5-6. He doesn't want to lose a Sekiwake spot. He doesn't even want to be in the position he's in right now. He really wants to be winning against Midorifuji, who had a tough loss today, who's feeling a little shaky, who just faced Wakatakakage's brother. So this is a big match for both men. Then we have Wakamotoharu versus Endo, another tournament decider. Whoever loses this is out. Daieisho versus Hokutofuji. Obviously, Daieisho, this is crucial in the sense that Daieisho wants to stay right behind Midorifuji, but he has a little bit of room to lose, but you don't want to lose. Hokutofuji really trying to put a tournament together here after being pretty shoddy, and he's aggressive. Him and Daieisho have aggressive matches. You might see some blood. And then we have Kotonowaka versus Meisei. I have not spoken much about Kotonowaka. He's in the 8-3 category. He's another guy like Koto Shoho who looks great. He's got a great body. He's got great sumo. Lots of techniques, lots of power, big body. And he just isn't quite there for all these guys. Kiribayama, Hoshoryu, Kotonowaka, this whole class of fighters, there's something missing. And for each guy, it could be something different. But unfortunately, now is the time to step up, guys. Somebody start something consistent. Kotonowaka is going to be facing Meisei. Kotonowaka should win this match, but Meisei is always a dark horse. He is the Shodai, the non-Ozeki Shodai, who can beat anybody if he puts his mind to it. And he especially loves going after the guys who are in playoff contention or the top guys. He loves playing spoiler. I was going to have a Meisei counter for every tournament because he is the guy that could be 1-6 and you could still lose to him at the absolute worst time. So I'm going to make predictions for the matches tomorrow, and we're going to see if I'm completely wrong or completely right. And I'll have to tally these. I do plan to do a live stream tomorrow as well. So the plan will be tomorrow and Friday if all goes well. So then we can just continue on our conversations, and you guys can make fun of me if I'm completely wrong. So Kiribayama versus Hoshoryu, I'm taking Hoshoryu. Wakatakage versus Midorifuji, I'm taking Wakatakage. Wakamotoharu versus Endo, I'm taking Wakamotoharu. Daieisho versus Hokutofuji, I'm taking Daieisho. And Kotonowaka versus Meisei, I'm taking Kotonowaka. The Playfair says, for the record, I picked Takakeisho, so you're in good company. Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate you joining the company of people who just pick the absolute wrong person for the tournament. At least this tournament. You might have better luck next tournament. And Tulio says, Kotonowaka has the right head, just lacks experience. This is true, but he's getting to a point where he should be able to put some of the, he's not fresh. He should be able to put some of this experience together. And perhaps he is. Perhaps this is the tournament where it all does click. All of these guys are direct rivals. They're all in the same age group. They're the actual future of sumo, like for right now. There's some other guys who are, future. But these are the guys who are supposed to be making their moves right now, and they all are fighting each other, and they all have a chance. These are all guys who are in Sanyaku, so, let's see how that goes. And let's see. Okay, that's all the main stuff that's going on right now. I want to bring up one non-42 opinion, but soon to be 42 opinion. Anybody seeing what's going on in Juryo? We have Asanoyama and Ichinojo, who are both 10-1. This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. Because Asanoyama needs to start fighting guys. Like, this is a good time for Asanoyama to be fighting it out with somebody from Makuuchi, because Ichinojo don't belong there. We all know this. Asanoyama doesn't belong in Juryo either. So this is a great test to see what kind of condition Asanoyama's in. He really needs to come back now. He really needs to become Ozeki. He really needs to be Yokozuna. I have never felt that he was capable of it, quite frankly, because of his mental stuff, not his physical stuff. Asanoyama is like the guy you would pick to be Ozeki, the guy that you would pick to be Yokozuna. But mentally, man, he just could never put it together. And now he's carrying a lot of baggage with him on the way back up. He's 2 years older. He lost everything. He lost his father. His father died. I believe one of his coaches also died. And he wanted to retire. He asked to retire, and his coach said no. So now maybe he's all putting it together and he's feeling good. But boy, his mind has been a problem in the past, and it could potentially be a problem in the future, and we will have to see. The Playfarer says, I think they are like the kids that get told they're gifted and destined for greatness, but once they become conscious of what that takes, begin to struggle to make that actually happen. There could be some truth to that. I mean, this might just be modern life with these guys. I definitely don't condone the negative aspects of sumo, like the bullying and the hazing and all that. I mean, that stuff is dangerous and it's terrible, and you should not be abusing people. On the other hand, sometimes I think some of these guys are just too lax. And sumo is a tough sport. It's not the way the rules work and the way it all gets put together. To reach Ozeki, to reach Yokozuna, you just don't do it. That's why we're in a spot where we have nobody. You really have to reach a certain level, and you got to put in just hard, gut-wrenching, push your body to the limit type training. And so who knows if we might be waiting like 5-6 years before somebody can do it. I don't know. This sport is not for the faint of heart. So Daniel says, honestly, the Juryo Yusho race is more interesting than Division 1. There is some truth to that on my end too. I wouldn't say that I think it's more interesting, but I'm paying a lot more attention to it. And I think that's because no one has, with Midorifuji losing today, no one's really stepped out. We've had to wait a long time to even see what the positions were going to be. Like, this is not 2017 sumo where Hakuho is dominating everybody and you've got two guys who are just trying to see if they can knock him off. It's a free-for-all every single tournament, and it can take you out of the race a little bit because you don't have a mano-a-mano situation. You just have a bunch of guys fighting it out, and then day 14 you go, oh wow, really, he won? I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to pull that off. Whereas this Juryo show has a little bit more of a traditional feel. It feels like, okay, is it going to be Ichinojo? Is it going to be Asanoyama? Who's going to pull this off? The Playfarer says, Asanoyama is feeling like Terunofuji did on his climb. I just hope he doesn't lose his belief or get injured again. That's the thing. Him being down out of Makuuchi for 2 years, he's 2 years older. There's all this opportunity to get injured because he's fighting more and more guys. I mean, they're not at his level, but he's not. I mean, for 2 years, he's doing training essentially instead of fighting all the top guys. It's going to be hard for him. It's not going to be just a walk in the park. He might make this huge leap, but he might not. I really, really hope that's not the case. And Quackadoo says, Asanoyama versus Terunofuji in May. Terror has a winning record, though. People would throw themselves on the ground to see that match. These people want to believe in the future of sumo. And Hakuho has stated that the next Yokozuna he thinks will be Asanoyama. He thinks he's the only one capable of it. And that's saying something when Asanoyama's in Juryo. That means Hakuho believes all these other guys are just going to keep doing what they're doing and wait for Asanoyama to leapfrog back up. The Playfarer says, well, Asanoyama wasn't injured, I guess, but still. Well, sure. Asanoyama did not go down for injury like everybody else, but you can consider the mental assault to be like an injury because physically your body needs to heal. Mentally, your mind needs to heal. Asanoyama has a lot of baggage to work through. If things don't go well, I mean, he's coming back up no matter what next tournament. If things don't go well in May, you could see Asanoyama like just really having a problem. Like he when he comes in, he's going to be, somewhere probably, what are we going to say, like 12 or 13 probably. And he's going to need to come in and do another 10-1 because he should beat every single guy there if he's Asanoyama Ozeki. If he does anything less than that, then he's going to get in his head. So, I mean, he just needs to do what he needs to do and shoot up quickly. And I want to see him fighting Kiribayama, Hoshoryu, Wakatakage, Midorifuji, Daieisho. I want to see him, Kotonowaka. He needs to fight. He needs to fight the real competition and see what he's got. Tulio says, at Daniel, I agree. So Tulio also is enduring Juryo much more. And Playfair says, I would be so here for that. Oh, so you're talking about Asanoyama Terunofuji. Let's just hope that Terunofuji's knees are so much better and Asanoyama's brain is tip-top shape. That's what we need. We need some miracles, people. Because sumo is looking a little dicey. But I'm encouraged by the fact that I'm encouraged by Hoshoryu. He's really the guy that I'm banking on. He's had a little bit of injury setback with the ankle. He's very aggressive, so that aggression can work against him. But he's the guy that really stands out to me if he can get himself consistent. I'm sort of souring on Wakatakage. He's definitely the guy who thought he was the guy, and he's getting humbled right now. Hoshoryu thinks he's the guy, but he also knows what it's like to get abused by his uncle and insulted and stuff. So he kind of seems to understand the highs and the lows. The Playfarer says, my hope is that Asanoyama can eventually take the Yokozuna mantle from Terunofuji. I can tell that it must be wearing on Teru after not being able to get 10 Yusho like he said he wanted in 2020. Yeah, he really wanted that. And we will be lucky if he has one more tournament in him, realistically. Because he not only does he have the knee problem, he just got surgery. He's got the diabetes, and every year that you get older, that diabetes gets worse. It's a very, very difficult condition to manage, particularly in a sport where eating is part of your job. Like, how do you keep yourself that big on a diabetic diet? I have no clue how he can do that. So, I do not understand Tulio's comment of Dicey Brendan Schwab. That's going right over my head. Quackadoo says Hoshoryu might get to Yokozuna before Asa. I don't know. I think it's at least possible. And that's only because I question whether Asanoyama's head is in the game. He has not been mentally tested yet. He's been just beating up everybody he should beat up. As you can see with Hokuseiho in particular, that guy is a monster. That guy has the ability to definitely become Yokozuna. He's not doing so good right now. He's doing okay. He's not dominating. He's not going to be the brand new guy in the top division to win the tournament. And that's because there's a big step up when you go from Juryo to Makuuchi. It just, everything's harder. Tachiais are harder. The guys are faster. They're hungrier. They're just in it to win it. And Asanoyama has not been in that environment in 2.5 years. He's going to get a little bit of it with Ichinojo. Might be a blessing that Ichinojo went down, but Hoshoryu has been in the grind this whole time that Asanoyama has not been there. But Hoshoryu is a much smaller guy, and nothing changes that. It would be hard for Hoshoryu to get bigger. Daniel says, honestly, I'm not sure Asanoyama is even going to get to Yokozuna. He doesn't really have that great of a record against the guys in the Joi. It's very possible. It's very possible he doesn't have it in him. I mean, he was in Ozeki and he could not do it. He could not do it. And he would lose to Takakeisho. Everybody who's like, oh, Takakeisho stinks. He only pushes and thrusts. And Asanoyama's great. Let's not forget the great leg pick from our guy down in Juryo. Wow, I'm losing my mind. I can't think of his name right now. Terunofuji stablemate. Somebody help me out here. Asanoyama got leg picked. He's definitely he's got some Mitaki Yumi in him or something. I don't know. He loses in ways that are surprising, and he loses to people he shouldn't lose to. And like I said, Takakeisho could beat him. And Takakeisho can't become Yokozuna. So, I don't know. The Playfarer says, we also got Ochiai coming up, but he's still a green bean. In my opinion... Nope, I just remembered. Terutsuyoshi. Terutsuyoshi leg-picked Asanoyama and got Terunofuji the Yusho. And I believe that's the one that promoted him back to Ozeki. Super embarrassing for Asanoyama to get leg-picked by Terutsuyoshi. I do believe that Ochiai... I really believe that Ochiai is the best hope in terms of having everything right now. Injuries could take that away in a heartbeat. I'm constantly worried about injuries because everybody's getting hurt, and it's killing sumo. Because you get these great talents, and they get hurt, and then they're gone for years. But Ochiai has everything you want in a guy who's going to become a future Yokozuna. He's rising fast. He's fighting hard. He's very, very serious, and his coach is the greatest of all time. I'm putting a lot on Ochiai. If he stays healthy, that guy is going places. Quackadoo says, Hoshoryu is 1 centimeter shorter than Asanoyama, but 30 kilograms difference. Yeah, and it's really hard to make up that difference. It really, really is. Now, Hakuho was able to do it. He was a very, very tiny guy, and he was able to do it, but he was always one of the smaller. And Hadamafuji, smaller Yokozuna. Kakuryu, smaller Yokozuna. It would be very, very difficult, I'm guessing, for Hoshoryu to put on weight. Some people just can't. So, he's always going to have the weight issue, but that doesn't remove him from Yokozuna, because we've had some smaller Yokozunas. He's got all the technique he needs. Man, that guy. And I'm telling you, calling him the king of Henka. He has hanked people in ways that have made me so angry. But now with his this tournament, he's shown 2 guys, don't you dare Henka against me, because I know the Henka. And he embarrassed them. And then Daniel says there's also that college prospect, Daiki Nakamura, who I think is at least a surefire Ozeki. I did see a little bit of him, and definitely the hype seems to be real. But he's so far away that I don't want to think about us having to wait that long. Let's put it that way. I'm really hoping we don't have to wait that long. It's like, come on, maybe we need to hurry Ochiai up. Maybe Hokuseiho needs a little extra help from Hakuho, because he's unfortunately faltering a little bit. We'll chalk it up to being his first tournament, but I wanted him to be dominant. I really wanted more from him, and it's not happening. We have Kinbozan, but Hokuseiho not living up to what I want, because now I'm getting impatient because nobody's Ozeki and nobody's Yokozuna. But anyway, I digress. Okay, guys, it was great talking with all of you. I think I'm going to end the stream for tonight. I'm going to be back tomorrow night, same time, 9:15. Back Friday night, same time, 9:15. We'll talk about all the craziness, because tomorrow is going to be wild with all these matches. We're going to have a much better idea of who's likely going to win this tournament. So thank you all for coming. It's super awesome, and I will see you tomorrow.